Hi, I'm Jack Vilas. From Morgan City, Louisiana. I run a small business called Miko Marine US, and we sell anchor magnets and ship salvage equipment. For years, I didn't improve things. I came down as a tender, went to dive school, came down in '75, went to work for Oceaneering, went ahead and had went offshore, was a tender. They wouldn't pass me as my knee, so I spent about 9 years as what they called a professional tender and got my physical passed at that point, but then they kept working me, so I kept on as a professional tender. And then when they basically said the days of professional tenders are gone, so I went ahead and shifted into the diving division, dove for about 3 years, and then I got hurt. And make a long story short, in 1986, I formed my own company and started building and fixing diving equipment, and developed my own equipment, fixed other people's equipment, sold new equipment, and developed a nice business out of it. Well, just make sure it's what you want to do and you know about it before you go to dive school. Dive school is not inexpensive. And I remember at my office there were lots of people that came with their wives and had no idea these people would be gone a lot. And so they spend $20,000, $30,000 nowadays, 30, and then they come down here and never go to work. Their wives had no clue they were going to be in Morgan City and waiting for them to come home and spend time. My wife did the math and said that when I was working offshore for our first years of marriage, I was gone an average of 270 days a year. So if you can't deal with that, don't spend the money wanting to become a diver. I'd love to tell you a cool story, but when you're a diver, you go down and go to work. I mean, when I was diving, I really didn't have any cool stories. It was go down, do the job, and come back up. And I had an accident once that wasn't my fault, but that wasn't really a cool story. That's just not the kind of thing you want to get yourself in that position again. The difference in the industry now is that there's less on-the-job training and more pre-training, more pre-job meetings, more pre-job organization. The job safety analysis is probably one of the biggest changes. They mentioned that at the thing. It's where you, of course, you just wouldn't sit there and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. You say, okay, here's what you're going to do. Don't put your fingers here, or something of that nature. Not to be that simple, but that's the rules. When they realize there's a dangerous situation, they mitigate the dangerous situation. So that's probably the biggest improvement in diving, safety. There's lots of little things, but they're not near as important as the pre-job training, pre-job meetings. Well, I started in '86, and quite honestly, it was the worst time to start a business in the oil field. It was a bad time. But I hadn't been paid in 3 months, and I figured if anybody was not going to pay me, it was going to be me. So we took our last $8,000 to our name and started the company. And it took quite a while, maybe 10 years, to get to a comfortable position financially with the company. We couldn't get bank financing, we couldn't get loans, so we had to do all that ourselves.
What was the name of the company?
Jack Vilas and Associates. Most of the people just called it Jack's, Jack Place, Jack Shack. It was, I had no real good name to name it. Name it after me, My wife and I ran it 27 years, and then we sold it, and did well. I mean, no complaints. Hired many more people. Put a lot of people to work that had no jobs to begin with. I mean, trained them and then made sure they were happy enough to stay. I don't want to retrain people if I don't want to, and I'd rather have happy people working for me. So small company doesn't have a lot of benefits, but you give them what you can and make sure they're in a good work environment, and they'll probably stick around.
What you did after you did that?
I'm sorry?
After you sold your company, what you did?
Well, I stayed with them for about 5 months, and then left. And then I spent 2 years basically consulting. People wanted me to come look at this piece of equipment or look at that piece of equipment, and they wanted me to, or help them develop a new product. And then after that, this company, Miko Marine, who I'd worked with for about 14 years, went ahead and asked me to start a U.S. division for them. They're in Norway, and they asked me to start a U.S. company. So I'm in Morgan City. I started the company in Morgan City 10 years ago, and I'm still running that for them. It's involving diving somewhat. I mean, they make high-strength magnets and ship salvage equipment using magnetic equipment. And one of the things we've been doing is finding new markets for the magnets. We have a magnet, and we discovered that you could lift a manhole cover with a magnet instead of prying it up and putting your fingers under there where they get smashed. You just smack a magnet to it, lift it right off, put it back in place. And various other things. We have one type of magnet, these excursion cruises where they launch small boats and take them into various spots, mostly in the Arctic. They take these magnets and put them on the side of the ship, tie the boats onto the magnets, and then they can put the people in and out safer, and then take the magnets off the side of the ship at the end of the day and go to the next location. Whatever you can use a big magnet for. They hold roughly 180 pounds up to 4,400 pounds. So listen to the people who've been in it before. They're the ones that know. You come out of dive school, you don't know a lot. When you come out of dive school, you know how to coil hose. And the other people are going to train you how to do your job. And you're not a diver. You don't know how to do things in the water that you're going to be asked to do. So when you're a tender or an apprentice, at that point, you're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to learn things, and the divers will know what job to put you on to teach you how to advance your skills. At that point, when they feel comfortable, when the company you're working for feels comfortable, then they'll make you a diver. You're not a diver when you come out. That's all there is to it. You've been in the water, you know how to blow bubbles, you know how to do this, you know how to stay alive maybe, but that, and make sure all your equipment works. I've had the unfortunate duty of investigating about 6 deaths and finding out why they died. And most of it was due to lack of maintenance on the diver's part, or a health issue. Most of the time it wasn't lack of maintenance on the company's part, the diver's helmet, the way he did things, certain things of that nature. So be careful, you can't, you're going where you don't belong. Make sure you get back home. Everyone's worried about 4 years of college. I went through trade school and made a life out of it. You can do that. The trades are a good thing, whether it's diving or millwright. It doesn't matter. As long as you learn something and you enjoy it and you can do it well and you do the best job you can. And the only other thing would be, quote Mike Rowe, work hard and smart. Not hard or smart, hard and smart. Because it's going to take both of those to be a success in an industry. Anything. My name's Jack Vilas, Vilas, and I've been in the industry for almost 50 years.